Hello, friend. Welcome to History ZZZ. Get comfortable. Let your body settle into wherever you are resting. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands go still. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere that requires a different kind of quiet. Not the quiet of a garden or a sleeping city or the deep ocean. The quiet of a man sitting in a darkened transport ship, listening to the engines, watching the French coast come closer. You are there. It is the early hours of June 6th, 1944. You are a soldier, American, young, trained, frightened in a way that feels almost separate from you, like weather you're moving through. Around you, 156,000 men are crossing this water, the largest amphibious invasion in the history of warfare. You don't know that yet. You know what you were told. You know your job. You know the men beside you. For now, the water moves. The engines turn. France is ahead. Close your eyes. You are there. The ship smells like engine oil and the cold salt water coming in through every gap. You have been aboard for hours. The crossing from England took most of the night. You slept a little, not deeply, not well. Propped against your pack, helmet pulled over your face. The man beside you snored. You were annoyed at the time. Now you're glad someone slept. The hold is lit in red to preserve your night vision. The faces around you are strange in that light, older looking, stripped of the usual color of things. Some men are writing, small notebooks, careful handwriting in the dim. Some are praying silently, lips moving. Some are just sitting with their hands in their laps, eyes somewhere else entirely. No one is talking very much. There is not much left to say. You said most of it last night, at the briefing, at the poker game that no one was really playing, at the dinner that no one was really hungry for. Now there is just the engine and the water and the slow passage toward whatever comes next. You know these men, not all 156,000, you know 12, your squad. You know which one talks too much when he's nervous. You know which one goes completely quiet. You know the one who plays harmonica and the one who complains about the food and the one who has a photograph of a girl he met in London that he looks at more than he should. You know them the way you know your family, not because you chose them, but because circumstance put you together and kept you there long enough that the choosing stopped mattering. Sergeant Kowalski is 3 men down. He catches your eye and gives you a single nod. Not a cheerful nod, a steady one, the kind that means, I see you. We're still here. You nod back. That exchange takes less than 2 seconds and means more than most conversations. Above deck, the English Channel is doing what it always does, arguing. The weather had delayed the invasion for a day. The forecast for June 5th was too rough. General Eisenhower looked at the maps, looked at the predictions, made a decision that could not be unmade. June 6th, first light, go. The weather is better today, barely. The swells are 3 to 5 feet, enough to make men sick, and many are. The smell in the hold has not improved. But above deck, in the dark before dawn, there is something almost beautiful about the scale of what you are part of. Ships in every direction. As far as you can see, in every direction, ships. 5,000 vessels, the largest fleet ever assembled. From the water, it looks like the sea has grown cities. Up ahead, the bombardment has started. The flashes of naval guns are visible on the horizon, the brief, violent blooming of light, and then a moment later, the sound, rolling across the water like thunder from the wrong direction. You wrote a letter last night. 2, actually. The first one was practical, where the money is, the insurance policy, your mother's address. the things that need to be said in case you don't come back to say them yourself. The second one was harder, not practical at all. Just the things you'd been meaning to say for years and kept not saying because there was always going to be more time. You sealed both envelopes and gave them to the chaplain. There is a particular feeling that comes after you do that. Not peace exactly, more like completion. Like you've put something in order that needed to be in order. You feel very young and very old simultaneously. In your breast pocket against your chest, you have one photograph. You do not take it out. You just know it's there. You have known it was there every minute of the crossing. That is enough. President Roosevelt broadcast a prayer to the nation last night. Back home, families gathered around their radios. Your mother, if she was awake, would have been in the kitchen, hands folded on the table, listening. Here you heard a version of it read aloud by the chaplain before you boarded. A prayer for the men going into the sea, for those who will not return, for the nation, watching and waiting. You are not particularly religious. You have become more so in the last year in a practical, provisional kind of way, a dealing you have struck with whatever is larger than you, on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. But the chaplain's voice reading those words in the cold hold of the ship reached something in you that you didn't know was there. Almighty God, our sons and daughters are this day setting upon a mighty endeavor. The words felt true. Whatever else you might say about them, they felt true. Dawn begins before you expect it. Not sudden, it never is. Just a slow graying of the darkness, a thinning of the black into something that is almost blue, then almost gray, then the first suggestion of light along the eastern horizon. The French coast, when you can see it clearly for the first time, is not what you expected. You expected something dramatic, something that looked like the thing it was going to be. Instead, it looks like a coast. Bluffs, sand, the dark line where the water meets the land. From here, it looks ordinary. You know it is not ordinary. You have been told exactly what is on those bluffs, exactly what is waiting in the fortifications, exactly what happens to men who run across that sand in the open. But right now, in the early light, it just looks like a coast. You breathe in. The air coming off France smells like salt and something else, something warmer, more vegetable. Land smell, after all the water. France smells like grass. The order to transfer to the landing craft comes at 400. You go over the side in the dark, down the cargo nets into the Higgins boat. The sea is moving, the landing craft is moving. Timing the swing off the net and the drop into the boat is imprecise. Men fall. Most catch themselves. One man ahead of you drops badly and twists his ankle before a shot has been fired. In the Higgins boat, 36 men are packed in standing, shoulder to shoulder, facing the front ramp. The craft is about 36 feet long. It hits the swells and crashes down in a way that shakes your teeth. Men are sick, men are cold. The spray comes over the sides and soaks everything within minutes. Nobody talks much. You watch the front ramp, steel, gray, salt-stained. On the other side of that ramp is the beach. The distance to shore is 3 miles. At this speed, roughly 40 minutes. You have 40 minutes. 40 minutes is a long time to think. You think about Kansas. You think about the particular smell of your mother's kitchen on Sunday mornings. You think about your dog, who is probably on the porch right now, not knowing that any of this is happening. You think about a summer night 3 years ago when nothing in particular was occurring. You were just sitting on a back porch, watching the fireflies come out, hearing the radio through the screen door. You thought nothing of it at the time. You would give a great deal for that porch right now. The man beside you, Tommy Gallagher from Rhode Island, leans over and says, "You scared?" You say, "Yeah." He says, "Good. Me too." Neither of you says anything else. But something about the exchange helps. The fear is still there. It is just less lonely than it was. The sky above you is not empty. In the hours before the beach landing, more than 13,000 Allied paratroopers have already jumped behind enemy lines. The 82nd and 101st Airborne, men who fell through the dark from planes you may have heard and didn't know were carrying soldiers. Now, as the light grows, the aircraft come in waves. Bombers going over toward the coast, heavy, slow, their engines a different sound than the ships. Higher, more persistent. You watch them go over. Somewhere up there, men in planes are watching you down here. The tiny armada on the gray sea, the small boats moving toward the shore. From up there, it must look like something from history, something that will be told for a long time. From down here, it feels like the 42 minutes until your ramp drops. Nothing prepares you for the noise. You were told it would be loud. You understood that intellectually. You did not understand it the way you understand it now in the landing craft, with the naval guns firing from the ships behind you and the bombs falling ahead of you and the anti-aircraft fire making small orange bursts against the pale sky. It is not just loud. It is a physical thing. It moves through you. It sits in your chest and pushes. You have to lean toward the man next to you and shout to be heard from 2 feet away. The German shore batteries are returning fire now. You can hear the shells passing overhead, a sound you were told about but did not believe until now, a sound like tearing fabric at enormous scale. The landing craft to your left takes a hit and vanishes. You watch this happen. You process it the way you process everything right now, as information, not as feeling. The feeling is there. It will find you later. Right now there is only the ramp and the beach ahead and the noise. The ramp drops. Before it is fully down, you are moving. Everyone is moving. That is what training does. It removes the hesitation between the thing happening and your body responding to it. The water is waist deep where you hit it, cold in a way that stops your breath for half a second. The bottom is sand and you run, or as close to running as you can manage in waist deep water in full gear carrying 60 pounds. Around you, men are going down. You do not stop. This is not coldness. It is the thing your training put in you for exactly this situation. The absolute priority of the objective, the understanding that stopping does not help anyone. Your boots find shallower water, then sand. You are on the beach. The beach is chaos organized just enough by training to function. There are obstacles in the sand, iron crosses and wooden stakes with mines attached, placed by the Germans to destroy landing craft and kill men in the water. You weave between them. Ahead is the seawall. The men who reach it are alive. The men who are in the open between the water and the wall are in the worst place to be. You run. The sand is wet and heavy under your boots. Your gear weighs what it weighs. You are aware of rounds hitting the sand around you in a way that you process as pattern rather than danger. The geometry of where you are and where the fire is coming from and which way to angle your run to give yourself the best chance. You reach the seawall. You press yourself against it. Around you, other men arrive. Some do not arrive. You breathe. You check your rifle. You look at the man beside you. He is alive. You are alive. First things first. Sergeant Kowalski arrives 30 seconds after you. His helmet is gone, blown off somewhere in the water. He has a cut above his ear that is bleeding steadily, and that he seems not to have noticed. He arrives at the seawall the way he does everything, with a kind of aggressive forward momentum that does not allow for uncertainty. He counts heads, 9 of 12. His face does something when he reaches 9. It takes a second, and then it's gone, replaced by the sergeant face, the operational face, the face that is required right now. He looks at the bluffs, he looks at the seawall, he looks at the 9 men he has. He says, "The job is the same." Nobody argues with this. The job is the same. The bluffs are not as impossible as they looked. From the water, from the briefing maps, they seemed vertical, impenetrable. Up close, there are draws, shallow valleys in the cliff face where men can move. All morning, small groups are finding these draws, moving upward in 1s and 2s, getting through the wire, getting past the bunkers. The textbooks will later describe this as the turning point, when individual soldiers, acting on initiative in the absence of orders, began to move upward instead of lying on the beach. You don't know you're a turning point. You know there is a draw in the cliff 20 meters to your left. You know that lying here is not survivable. You know that moving might be. Kowalski nods at the draw. You go. You reach the top at 9:30. The view from the bluffs is not what you expect. Below you, the beach. What happened down there is still happening to others. New waves of men coming in, the chaos of the waterline still ongoing. But up here, the field behind the bluffs is green. Normandy in June is extraordinarily green. The hedgerows, the bocage, the dense tangles of earth and root and vegetation that divide every field are in full summer growth. The grass is thick. Wildflowers are growing in the ditches. It looks like a farm. It looks like home, almost, if home were in France. There is something almost unbearable about the gap between what the landscape is and what is happening in it. A lark is singing somewhere in the hedgerow to your right. You hear it clearly in a pause between the firing. A lark singing at Normandy on this morning of all mornings. You don't know why this almost undoes you. But it does a little. You breathe. You move forward. By afternoon, you have not slept in 30 hours. The adrenaline that has been carrying you since the ship has not gone away, but it has changed quality. From acute and sharp to something lower and more constant, a hum that sits behind your eyes and makes the world slightly unreal. You are in a farmhouse cellar with 7 other men, waiting for the order to move again. Someone has found bread. Someone else has found a wheel of cheese on a shelf, left behind when whoever lived here left in a hurry. You eat. The bread is good, normal and good and French, and the unreality of eating good French bread in a farmhouse cellar on this particular afternoon is something you file away without fully processing. The radio says the beachhead is holding. You don't know what that means for tomorrow. You know what it means for today. It means you are still here. When darkness comes on June 6, 1944, the beachhead holds. This is not a small thing. For most of the day, it was not certain. The numbers are not yet known. 156,000 men landed, 10,000 casualties. The precise count will take years to establish. What is known by nightfall: 5 beaches, 2 countries, 11 months of fighting ahead, but a foothold in France that will not be given back. You find a ditch near the farmhouse, fill it with your body, pull your coat around you. The sky overhead is clearing. The first stars are visible through breaks in the clouds. The stars are the same stars. They have been there for the morning and for the crossing and for the beach and for all of it. They were there when you were in Kansas. You close your eyes. You are improbably still here. You sleep. You carried 60 pounds on that beach. rifle and ammunition, K-rations, canteen, first aid kit, bayonet, entrenching tool, gas mask, smoke grenades, extra socks in a waterproof bag, your sergeant's idea, which you thought was absurd until your feet were wet for 18 hours. You carried all of this and ran across sand that was being fired upon. The human body in extremity is capable of things that would seem impossible in ordinary life. This is one of the central discoveries that every soldier throughout history has made, that you can do more than you thought you could, under conditions you thought would stop you. This is not inspiration. This is documentation. The men who crossed that beach were ordinary people. They were from Kansas and Rhode Island and Georgia and Michigan. They had dogs and mothers and girls with photographs. They were frightened. They went anyway. The Normandy American Cemetery sits on a bluff above Omaha Beach. 9,388 graves, white marble crosses and stars of David in long, perfect rows facing west toward America. Across the Atlantic they crossed to come here. The cemetery was established on June 8, 1944, 2 days after the landing. The first men buried there were buried before the fighting was over. The names on those markers are the names of men who were afraid and wrote letters and ate bad food and played cards badly and talked about home in the dark hold of a ship. Ordinary names: Smith, Johnson, Garcia, Kowalski. Each one had a Kansas. Each one had a porch. History is not made by forces. History is made by people who wake up afraid in the dark and go anyway. That is what happened here. Let the night settle around you. You are safe. You are warm. Whatever you are carrying tonight is lighter than 60 pounds on a beach. Somewhere in the ditch near the Norman farmhouse, a young man from Kansas is sleeping for the first time in 2 days. He went through the water and across the sand and up the bluffs and into the green fields of France, and he is tonight still here. Tomorrow there will be more. There is always more. 11 months from now, the war in Europe will end. But tonight he sleeps. The stars are above him, the same ones from Kansas. The lark that sang in the hedgerow is somewhere in the dark, quiet now. France is at peace in the night for a few hours between what was and what comes next. You are safe. You can rest. Good night from Normandy. Good night. Thank you for being there. If you enjoyed this journey, History ZZZ has many more waiting for you. Ancient Kyoto, the mystery of the Baghdad Battery, the court of Kublai Khan, the last night of Pompeii. Wherever you would like to rest tonight, we have a world for you. Sleep well, wherever you are. History ZZZ.